Hello, welcome. Is it on? Welcome to Rising Tide podcast. Uh, Stover and Kyle, I'm not sure it's on, but anyway, let's get this show started. My name's Dean LaBay, LA-B-A-Y. I'm in New Orleans, and basically, I've been on a lot of podcasts, but I've never been a host, so this is my first time. So please bear with us as we try to get this thing going. The Rising Tide community is a community of basically people who believe in the theory a rising tide lifts all ships. I'm very grateful to this community because back when my story, back when I was kind of down on my own, they were there for me, and they lifted me when I needed them. They were there for me. They were my community, and like I said, this is my first time to host. Uh, I don't know. I believe in hospitality. I believe in all the things that I've learned on this community. Uh, Shawn Walchef, who started this, basically, his grandfather told him, stay curious, get involved, and ask for help. So me doing my first podcast, I asked for some help, and some people have showed up today, and I appreciate that. Uh, Stover, whenever you want to bring up the others, that'd be fine. We'll go from there. Uh, I see that. I see Maddie Smokes is in the house, and I see Izzy's in the house, so that's good. Uh, Listen, I've talked a lot of times on this program, and basically, in a community where most people that get to LinkedIn, they get there because they're looking for work. That's how I got here, and I connected with a guy named Shawn, and Shawn asked me to come on a place called Clubhouse back in the day. And from there, the community's grown. But more than that, my skills as far as being able to tell a story have improved dramatically. And I'm just so y'all know, I'm in New Orleans. I'm broadcasting from a place called the Shop. It's a workplace place, and I'm doing it by telephone, by iPhone. And I believe that the world should be transmitting by iPhone. I think we live in a digital world where anybody can tell their story. I'm telling my story from New Orleans on an iPhone on a podcast that's being broadcast right now across 7 different platforms, and there's never been a better time to tell your story than right now. Now, a lot of people see the potato in my name. They say, what's that about? What's that potato thing all about? Well, it's real simple. Back when I was growing up in a small town, 4 boys, mom and dad, 5 boys. I was 4 brothers, mom and dad. And, first time I slept over somebody's house on a sleepover, the woman made a meal. And in that meal was like ham, string beans, corn, and some cornbread. But what was missing was potatoes. At 9 years old, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but at 9 years old, I had never had a meal that potatoes weren't part of the meal. Uh, it was just a staple that we used, and I'm grateful for it. So what happened was a light went off. I had one of those aha moments that not everybody eats potatoes with every meal. And I know it sounds like a small thing, but it's kind of what I tried to structure my life around, being curious. And the reason is this: if you don't know, you just don't know. And what happens a lot of times is these aha moments that you have. We have them all the time. They're all around us. I think the universe puts it in such a place that they'll bring opportunities for you if you're looking for them. And so anyway, I appreciate y'all being here to help me start this off. And again, I am working from an iPhone. I do wear glasses. So what I'm going to do is, because Elizabeth's really, really good at this, I'm going to pass it to Elizabeth and let her tell us about her storytelling and iPhone moments. And then, you remember how in Clubhouse we used to do popcorn, you'd call on somebody else, and then they'd call on somebody else? Let's do it like that, because I can't read all the names now. I see most everybody I recognize, but honestly, I don't want to get it wrong. So thanks for helping with this. And Elizabeth, tell us who you are, what you're working on and what you believe.
Awesome. And thank you so much for telling the story again. I love every time that you tell us stories. And my name is Elizabeth Doss, and I'm a social media content creator and manager, as well as helping people create animations to animate their social media through the power of GIFs. I'm a verified artist with Giphy. My GIFs have been viewed over 6 billion times, and I help brands and businesses set up their own accounts so that they can be searchable within that little GIF button search on the back end of most social media apps. If you're curious, please reach out to me. Got to get that out of the way. But no, so storytelling has always been a huge part of my family, honestly, especially on my mom's side. We would get together with my grandparents, my aunts would come, and they would just tell stories. And when James was getting his MBA, I would go over in the evenings and hang out with my grandmother, and she would fall asleep while we were watching Keeping Up Appearances. And she would wake up laughing, Violet Bouquet. Anyway, if you know what that is. But and then she would tell me stories, and I started secretly recording her as she would go through some of these family stories. And she's no longer with us. But what's funny is my nieces didn't really get to spend a whole lot of time with her. In fact, the one wasn't born yet, but they have caught on to this storytelling idea. So anytime we have a big family meal at the house, they want us to go around and tell stories that will make them laugh. And they have their favorite stories that they want to tell, much to my sister's chagrin. But building the idea of storytelling in and around the family and creating this lore, I guess, and reviewing those things, it becomes a part of who they are. And my niece's favorite story to tell is my sister took them to Claire's, the accessory place in the mall. And they walk in, and the attendant comes up to my sister and like taps her. Excuse me, ma'am, I'm so sorry, but you have a googly eye stuck to your butt. My nieces cry laughing at this every single time because we laugh at them, and then it just goes on for a while. But one of my other favorite stories to tell with my family is my mother. We were playing like Cranium, I think, where you had to draw, and she drew a monkey. But it had pointed ears and it had no tail, and it was like hanging upside down in this tree. Anyway, I still draw that for her over and over again. But my sister and I began to buy her monkey everything just so she wouldn't forget what a monkey looked like. Monkey lamps and socks and toys and like all this stuff. And she was over it pretty quick. She was done with the monkeys. But it was summer, and my sister was doing a yard sale. And so my mom put in the yard sale this big box of monkeys stuff that we'd gotten her, and we were both very offended. So we pulled it from the yard sale and wrapped it up and gave it back to her for Christmas 6 months later. Since then, Mom has started taking the monkey stuff to other states, to Goodwills, to drop them off so it wouldn't happen to come back and visit her again. Because we were like, where's all the monkey? Anyway, there are no more monkeys here. So, but these stories that you tell and that you review, but what does that look like in the context of your business? And so when I'm working with social media clients and we're recording, like we'll sit down and I'll just try to get them talking and get them telling me stories. And what's hard sometimes is people pivot to generalizations, and it's actually better the more specific that you can get. In fact, I was just working on a video with a real estate client that I have, and I had asked her the question, have you ever had a deal that you thought was going to fall apart, but it was able to be saved or whatever? I was asking for a very specific story, but now as I'm going back through the footage, I'm realizing she's giving me this really high level educational, well, that's because we do this, blah, blah, blah. Well, in the middle of that, she mentions that a deal almost fell apart because the authorities were looking for the seller. And after the camera shuts off, then she tells us what they were what they were being chased for. And I was like, this is the juicy stuff. This is the interesting stuff. And so anyway, and I can't If you want to know, I will message you privately because I don't have permission to tell that part of the story, all the things. It was a lot. But I'm like, okay, if we're going to do this, we need you, because one thing I tell my clients is the more that someone can get to know you online, and that's through these stories and the other things, that lines up with who you are when they meet you in person. You're building that trust already, that is, as soon as they step in to make that contract or do that thing, you're already ahead of the game, because they've already gotten to know you a little bit. They already know your sense of humor. They already know some of these things about you. And so they've already begun to start to trust you, and then they meet you in person, and it just furthers that deal. So getting out there and actually doing that. Now, I do understand that there is a fine line between your business and your personal stories. So the only time that I think it's appropriate is if you can use your stories as a metaphor or as an example for what you're trying to explain in the world that you're trying to do it. So anyway, all of those things. And so that's me, and that's what I'm thinking. I can hand it back to you, Dean, or we can go to Richard for the next installment.
Well, yeah, let's go to Richard, because we know Richard's got a good story. And how's everything over in the UK, Richard?
Hey, Dean. Thank you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, I put a really good idea for a realtor story in the chat for you. If you get a realtor telling the truth on camera, that would be beautiful. The whole world would love to see that. Hi, I'm Richard. I'm in the UK, and I run a branding consultancy. We do coaching, mentoring, and training, and it's all about making people more amazing. And that comes through storytelling. I love storytelling. I challenge people to do it all the time. And one of the things that I try and do is use stories, either my own stories to inspire other people, or I use stories as metaphors to help them understand complicated stuff. And I'll share a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. Last week, I ended up in the House of Lords in Downing Street, which is our equivalent of Pennsylvania Avenue. And what I've done with my story is been telling it to my clients, been telling it across social media, but also in person, to try and inspire them to go, look, anything's possible. Here's how you get there. Here's how you can make this stuff happen for your business. And I think what's really great with storytelling is it's there to inspire people to create their own and to follow that journey. So that's one of the ways that I use my own stories and the own mad things that happen in my life to explain things. I regularly explain to people, when Elizabeth came to the UK last year, that we met up, and some of the conversations we had, and how I talked her out of coming to the town near to where I live and to go somewhere way nicer. But then I use that as a way in to help people understand some of the things that Elizabeth's told me in the past, such as, do you know what, Richard? You need to get on camera and tell stories that are really yours. And I think for me, that's where I think storytelling is really, really powerful. But then there's also a way that how can you explain stories that, how can you use stories to explain really complex things? And one of the favorite things that I do with businesses is talk to them about, okay, how can we improve your clarity? How can we improve your confidence? And one of the things that people really struggle with is process in their business. And one of the things that I do is literally has anybody seen the movie The Founder, the Michael Keaton one about McDonald's? It's quite an interesting film. It's quite dark because Ray Kroc steals McDonald's from the nice McDonald's brothers, but skip over that bit. There's a bit in the middle that's absolutely beautiful where the McDonald's brothers are explaining to Ray Kroc how they created food in 90 seconds. And there's this beautiful scene where they go onto a tennis court and literally draw their kitchen with chalk. And then they redraw it and they get everybody to go, right, you stand here in the kitchen, you stand here. And I literally show people that 3-minute story and go, how can you talk about your business? How can you do your processes in a way that is as simple as McDonald's tennis court? And I'll get the clip and put it in the chat to share, because it's a really beautiful way of explaining how you can improve your processes to make your business run more efficiently. And what's so beautiful about the McDonald's movie is in the 2-minute clip, it shows you business process reengineering in a way that helps people understand it. So for me, if I'm using storytelling, is to inspire others and to show really complex things in simple ways to help people understand it. And I'll go and get the clip from the movie because it really is a beautiful thing. And I'll tell you who is good at telling a story. My friend in Atlanta. Good evening, Hildy.
Hello, Rich. Thank you. I sometimes can be a good storyteller. And I'm trying to figure out how to get back into it. So what I do for a living these days is interesting because I refuse to give up. And I have now 4 businesses. My main business, where I make all my money, is selling promotional products to global corporations. But even with that, even though for the last 3 years, I've pretty much posted at least one educational video a day that I create on my phone that is everyone compliments me, I'm shocked that I call a client and I'm like, you're running late for ordering because last year they ordered 300 JBL speakers. And she said, oh, we just decided because the owner's daughter rides horses that we were going to order bottles of bourbon with the horse on the top and have them laser etched. And I said, well, I do that. And I've done videos on that, and I probably could have saved you money. So it shows you no matter how many stories you tell, no matter how many videos you make, it still doesn't always get to the people that you want it to get to. So I lost a $40,000 order. So besides selling promotional products, I teach Mahjong, which is a huge deal these days. Everybody's learning it. And even men. This started out as a men's game. Then it got adopted by mostly Jewish women in the 60s here in the United States. But now everybody's learning. And the reason people are learning is it's so hard to learn. It takes a minimum of 8 hours to learn how to play Mahjong, that people are seeing the benefit of how it allows your brain to stay young and not get old. It helps fight Alzheimer's and dementia. Amazing. So that's second. Third, because I work from home and it seems like everybody's buying dogs these days, even though they work a 9-to-5 job. So when they go on vacation, the idea of somebody who works from home to love on their dogs while they're away is huge. They don't want to board them, and they don't want somebody with a 9-to-5 job. They want someone to love on their pets. So I make pretty decent money just cuddling a dog while I'm working. Then my last one is Gotta Sing Events, which is basically a sing-along company that I've got people in New York, Chicago, Florida, San Diego, and Atlanta all wanting me to come to them and set up in a restaurant on an off night and give people a new reason to come out. And the idea of singing along together to songs that people know is really resonating. And I'm looking forward to maybe talking to the group in, I don't know, a year about what I need to do in order to franchise this, because that's currently my goal. So storytelling through phones, I do it. I love it. Unfortunately, September 21st, I broke this hand. And to tell you that I'm sitting here right now, not in pain, would be a lie. And hopefully when I go back to the doctor tomorrow, he'll explain it to me. But I did have titanium plates and screws put in, and I just have no mobility in this hand. This hand can't. See, this can't. It doesn't. So if everybody could send me a Christmas blessing of a pain-free left wrist, I would really appreciate that. And I'm going to pass this off to Kyle.
What's up, everybody? Love all the stories so far, and I gotta say, Hildy, I need to figure out how to get paid to cuddle dogs, because that sounds like the greatest gig of all time. I've got 3 little puppies at home. One is far too big to come sit on my lap while I'm working. But yeah, let me know where I can sign up for that, because that sounds like a great gig. No, but thank you, Dino, for hosting today. I got to tell a quick story about Dean. We've got our weekly meeting with the whole team at Cali Barbecue Media. We do once a week with everyone on the production and editing and all across the ecosystem. And it has in recent weeks become tradition that Dean is the one that sends us off with a motivational pep talk at the end of it. And I think I can speak for the rest of the team and say all of us are ready to run through a wall at the end of those calls. So we love having Dino around. We love the energy and the good vibes he brings across the board. So appreciate you hosting today, and grateful for you, Dean. As far as storytelling goes, I will be the first to admit that in the ecosystem of folks in and around Cali Barbecue Media, I'm probably one of the least active people on social media, and that's for a number of reasons that we can get into another time. But I would say at the core of it, probably the biggest reason is just a lack of time, and I continue to make that excuse, and I continue to tell myself that I'll carve out the time, and I still don't manage to do it. So I'm trying to make that a point of accountability for myself as I head into 2026, specifically from a business perspective, networking with other folks like the great people on this call and everyone else in and around our ecosystem that's been built up at Cali Barbecue Media. That said, one area of storytelling that I sort of embarked on during this last year that I, unfortunately, for a couple of reasons, which I'll explain in a minute, haven't been as active on recently, but I started an Instagram channel for my garden. My garden is like the number one hobby I have outside of family and work. If I'm not, doing one of those things, you can probably find me in the garden. And it felt like a natural progression because I started my garden back during COVID. I needed something to get me outside and get some fresh air in my lungs where I could do so safely. So it started with one little garden box, 8x2, and it's turned into, I think I've got a dozen boxes in my front yard now, and several hundred square feet of garden space. And it goes pretty much year round. Thankfully, we're in San Diego, where we're in a climate that is pretty conducive to growing most of the year. It doesn't really get cold enough to have to completely shut it down. But what's cool about it, like I mentioned, I started during COVID. And so really the way I learned how to garden and learned most of what I know about gardening was through content on the internet. That was watching YouTube channels, that was watching Instagram feeds. And it felt like a natural progression that, like I've learned a lot of cool stuff, and I would love to share what I have learned, the good and the bad. And I think that's my favorite part of it is, as much as I love like sharing the success stories of the beautiful tomatoes and all the delicious crops that we pull out of the garden, it's kind of fun to share the not so glorious stuff as well. And that's been something I've tried to lean into, because I think that we've all experienced to some extent or another, just the social media life, right? And everything's sort of curated to be exactly what it's supposed to be. There's a lot of thought that goes into every post that you see on your feed. And I think that there's something to be said about just letting it be and just having a sort of a real approach to it, and not only telling the successes, but telling the failures as well, of which, trust me, there have been many in the garden, many failures in the garden. So I find that to be something I find myself gravitating towards a lot more. It's not hard to go find the success stories. It's not always easy to find the failure stories. And I think, something I teach my children often, when they make mistakes or they're feeling down on themselves for making the wrong choice is, this is how we learn. We all know that. And I think it's easy for us to forget it. So a lot of times the failures, the things that I've learned from the most are the things that I failed at. Of course, I want to grow the big, beautiful, delicious tomato, but it doesn't always work out that way. There's a lot of other factors in play. So bringing that all back and tying a nice little bow on storytelling, I think, the word authenticity is probably overused these days, and I think maybe used in disingenuous contexts at certain points in time. But I think storytelling does have to come from that place in the truest sense, of authenticity of telling the full story. So
Kyle, I think you said a lot of really interesting things. The bit about the failure part of it, and coming from a family of horticulturalists, I've seen that very in real life. What's really interesting is last week I got filmed, and I did a reel, and it's really exploded. It's been one of my most successful reels.
Yeah.
And you watch it, and it's really professional, and it looks fantastic. It's the kind of thing that Elizabeth's been nagging me to do for years. And I was showing a client this week that reel, and I said, look, this is really good. See what I did there, Elizabeth? Bit of real humor. The second one. But what I also did was I showed them all the crap ones that I made at the start.
Yeah.
And I showed them all the failures, because I think there's this little bit where people see social media and it's just utterly perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And by showing them the crap ones as well as the really good ones, it sort of shows that progression of crawl, walk, run. And I think it's really interesting that you're teaching your kids that, because I'm almost thinking to myself, yeah, I'm teaching my clients that. Actually, here's where I am now. But in order to get here, here's all the crap. And there really is. When I look back at some of the old ones, oh, it's horrendous. I need to talk to Elizabeth to see if there's a way of deleting them. But until that point, there's that bit where I think it shows that progression and that learning. And I think that is the thing with storytelling. Yes, it's great when you kind of have the big win and the big victory. And I certainly had that last week, and it's fantastic. But in order to get there, I fell over and over and over again. I think that's where the real learning is. And I think that's where the great bit of storytelling is. What was it? Edison and his light bulb, 1,000 failures before he got it to light.
Yep. No, I love that. And I can say firsthand that I think there's a lot of correlations between parenting and consulting and running a business. I have a lot of the same conversations, obviously in a different context and maybe through a slightly different lens, but the fundamentals remain. Now I love that. And I think Shawn is he's someone that I've always looked to and admired for that, of the idea of growing in public. It's something that he's done. It's something that we constantly have conversations with our clients about and teaching them to do. Of we got to show it all. Like the story is the most important thing. The quality of the story, and not every story has a happy ending. Right in this moment, and sometimes that's okay, and a lot of times it makes for a better story. It makes for an interesting story, because then it gives us something to look forward to, of how we turn the ship around and how we make the adjustments to do better next time. So I think we can all learn something from that. And like I said, I think Shawn's a great mentor in that regard. So I'll toss it on over to Maddie Smokes. You're up next.
Hey, what's going on, guys? How's everything? Storytelling, it's crazy. But for everyone out there, I'm Matty Smokes, chef, owner, pitmaster, operator, Matty Smokes Barbecue and Catering, and JJ Cooper's, Long Beach, New York. Today, I'm actually storytelling a lot. I'm finally scheduling out my podcast. So like I've said a few times, January 1st is going to come soon. But storytelling's not easy. Like Kyle was saying, it's like we always say we don't have the time, but I don't know, since hanging out with you guys, I've learned I just now record everything. And even when it doesn't come out the way I want it, or isn't the way it should be, sometimes that does well. And it just magnifies like wild. I mean, take a video of me cooking a few burgers and people think it's the craziest thing ever. And I get a couple thousand hits. And then I spend 3 hours on a reel, and I'm lucky to get 5 views. So exactly. So we're just out here, and we got to story tell every day and give our experiences. And who are we to tell other people what they care about and what they want to watch? It only helps to magnify what I'm doing. And if I put up a picture of a steak, it's one thing. But if I sit there and show you how I cook the steak, it obviously does a lot better. So you guys know the story. It's living every day, being as authentic as possible, and showing our everyday life as it is, because there are people out there that kind of just scroll all day and watch what we do and help magnify what we are doing. All right.
Hey, oh,
Yep.
sorry.
No,
Just
thanks,
really-
Maddie. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just had a really quick question, because I was thinking about you, Maddie, and telling your stories. And so I have a question for you. Do you have a moment when you remember maybe one of the first times when you cooked something and you watched someone eat it, and it hit you like, this is what I want to do? Like one of the things.
I mean, when I
So do
first
you have
opened
a memory?
barbecue
Yeah.
business, I mean, when I first opened the barbecue business, I wish I had it all on tape, but when you'd show up to an event and cook a pig in New York and most people haven't even seen it, and you start doing a carving station and everybody starts shredding away at it and saying how unbelievable it is. But the problem in my life where I always made the excuse was I didn't have the time because my hands were, I was cooking, I was dry rubbing, I was cutting, I was the carving station. And it was almost like, who tapes this for me? Because now, okay, I got to take the gloves off. I got to set up a tripod. The tripod was the wrong angle. Somebody tape me. And then, the other day I had a guy tape me carving. I had like 18, 20 turkeys that we were carving. And the whole time he held the camera sideways. And like all the footage is just not good. And there's still just that difficult boundary of saying, like, who gets me the footage of what I'm doing, or I've got to get more people doing what I'm doing and now start taping them because I'm the one that's getting a little better at the controlling of the media. But there's plenty of moments I wish I had on tape that I don't. They would be viral moments at this point.
Well, and you could even reenact some of those is kind of what, like, even if you don't have it in that moment, like, get a little bit, but there's always a teenager around that knows how to hold a phone and film. I'm just saying. One thing that we would do is the restaurants that I've helped out with their social media is we would kind of ask around the staff, because there's usually at least somebody that's interested in doing it. And starting to make that incentivized, kind of for them, that like, hey, if you catch some footage of a busy day, you have to be careful about people's permissions and filming people and all that type of stuff. But maybe they get to go home early. Maybe they don't have to reset for the next day or something, like where you incentivize them capturing content for you and sending it, and having like a general Google Drive where everybody can just keep dropping the content that they're anyway. But it is that planning ahead. But
at the restaurant, we did instate that a little bit. So I've got one hostess that's been doing a lot of taping with the Google Drive. And then on the site at the barbecues, I've been definitely encouraging. That's kind of where I'm starting to get a lot more of the footage from, is without a doubt, guys, we grow as a business, we grow together, we'll all make more money and do better. This needs to be a part of our model. So, and also, like, even the other day, it was just being in my car on the way to the barbecue. I just turned the camera on and started talking about my menu and what I was doing that day. And it actually did better than most of the videos I put out there. And it was not anything special.
Hey, Maddie, let me ask you something. We met at NRA in Chicago, but what was the aha moment for you when you decided to go all in? Because, I mean, there's a lot of people that's been there in our community, and they stick a toe in, but they don't go all the way in. What was that moment that you found out that, it's not about return on investment, it's about cost of inaction, knowing that if you didn't do it, somebody else going to tell your story? Do you know when that happened?
Honestly, me going all the way out to the NRA show because of this group and the free tickets pushing me, and then seeing Shawn, the way he's going around with everybody, and the idea of joining this group was all about expanding my network. And since then, looking at Shawn, looking at Michael and Garrow, looking at Charlie Evelyn, the way that they're expanding their network every single day, and people want to be on their shows. People want to talk to them. Very successful, acclimated people in the industry. So I'd say it was more of, okay, I'm on here now. Now I'm meeting all of you guys. I'm meeting successful people in the industry, and the network's growing. But how do I keep compounding on that? And so one, it was, I got told every day by you guys, broadcast everything I do. And I've been doing as much as I can. Actually, I'm doing half as much as I can. There's a lot more I can be doing. And when it comes to the podcast, it's just been awesome, because it started out right now with all people that have been in the industry with me that I've worked with or worked for. So we've got great stories to tell, and it's been a lot of fun. But now it's since expanding to people outside of my network that they're like, oh, can I be on the podcast? Can we talk? So now I'm meeting new restaurant owners, new operators that are people that I've never met before, but we're all learning from each other's experiences. Every time I'm sitting down and having a 45-minute hour conversation with them, oh, you know what? That's when you have a situation with the staff, you handle it that way. Never thought about that. And so we're kind of just all learning from each other. And it's just a high. It's been really good.
And Matty, it's interesting you said about you've done some posts when you look at it and you go, that's a great post. Why is nobody connected with it? And then there's other posts where you've looked at it and you go, how's this got so many? And I just when you said that, I really resonated with that, because I did a post today that's probably the best written post I've done in weeks. It's just done nothing.
Yeah.
There's a really, really, really great post all about supporting small businesses, well written, a little bit of humor, good pictures, done nothing. And then there's other posts which I've done where they're almost tongue in cheek, where I've not really thought about it, and it's just exploded. And there's I can't remember the film. I think it might be Notting Hill. Where they go, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason why things happen, and it certainly feels like that when it comes to, social media. I know there's all people that claim to understand the algorithm. I think the technical term for that's bullshit. I think actually sometimes you put stuff out there and there's no rhyme or reason why it does well or not well. It just happens like that. I think you'll never know if it does well or not if you don't post.
It's consistency of presence, making sure that we're there and that we stay relevant. And, like Hildy said, she was trying to put something out there and no one actually saw it. And so maybe we got to put it out there 10 times repetitively. If we really have a message that we want to get out there, make sure you put it out there over and over and over. And as Shawn said the one time, if nobody cares about it, it disappears anyway. So.
Well, Shawn always talks about nobody's coming, and that's true. You have to take the future. You have to take your life in your hands and do the work. The return cost of donation. I had a train of thought there, but I just lost it. So there you go. I know what I was going to say. When we first started this on Clubhouse, do you remember the Buckeyes, Elizabeth? You remember you had to have a Buckeye to be, part of the controls or whatever? I never got a Buckeye. Never got one. And I always thought about that. I said, well, at some point, I want to be part of the community and do my part. And for me, that's what this is. My part is to help encourage other people to tell their stories because of one thing. One person, you were talking about the masses, Richard, one person can make the difference, all the difference in the world. It only takes one. So, continue doing what you're doing. I see y'all stuff out there. I see Hildy stuff out there, and I can't see who's in the bottom of the screen.
It's Eric.
Is that Berkowitz?
No, Eric.
Eric. Hey, Eric, come on in. Tell us about you. Tell us what's going on with you.
Hey guys, sorry about the in and out of the call, connection problems and all sorts of weird stuff going on today. I needed to be on this one. It's Dean's first time hosting. I needed to be here. And the storytelling thing, if the guy that claims to have a writing business doesn't get on the call about storytelling, something's wrong. Anyway, I have the wordkitchen.com, but it is currently out of order. I took the website down because it's due for some renovations. So don't go looking if anybody's listening to this. Storytelling is getting more important to me. After being on this call for so long, gosh, what is it, over a year now? I'm finally figuring out where I fit in the storytelling game. And after all of the tornado of life that has hit me in the last 6 to 8 months, I won't go into it here, but some of you may have noticed I've been conspicuously absent from LinkedIn for a long time. I'm finding out now that messy story that I call life, the hard things that have hit our family this year, it's going to get used somehow. I don't really know how yet, but the Lord's kind of been poking me with the idea that my messy story, as jagged and nasty as it is, as hard as it has been in some ways, just like like Dean, I know some of your really hard parts in your story. It's designed that way to fit like a puzzle piece in somebody else's story. Whatever it is that's going on in your life is there to help somebody else. And I've spent a lot of time in my life not getting the story out, just hiding under my happy little rock and surviving. But I'm finding now that thriving comes from telling the stories, helping somebody else, and storytelling. I have friends that say it comes easy to me, but I don't know. Storytelling in text, that's a little more complicated than storytelling in person. I would love to sit at a table with all of you guys and just tell stories all night. I think that'd be a very different vibe than what we got here. On camera is good enough, but as soon as I can travel the world and get at a table with you guys, I'm doing that. So storytelling is important. Community is important. Community has been increasingly important to me, both from a business standpoint recently, because that's where things are headed. If you don't have if you're not building a community, you're missing the boat. But the world got weird in 2020. Everything needs to come back together. Earlier, I was on Hildy when you were talking about the sing-along thing, and I thought, that is absolutely brilliant. You better run as hard and fast as you can with that before somebody else steals your idea, because that's fantastic. Anything that we can do to get people to do more events live and in person and stop all the digital stuff, yes, please do that. So anything I can do to help facilitate that and get over my own doubts and fears and get telling more stories and turn the freaking camera on and just talk and record and publish and let it go and not delete it. I need to do more of that. So thank you to you guys for being that little nugget of encouragement to me sometimes when I need that. So glad to be here.
Absolutely, Eric. Listen, I wanted to mention something that you just said. You know, most everybody here knows my story. They know about the time I spent in the nursing home and all that. And I don't like to talk about it because it brings back a hard time in my life. But you'd be surprised how many people DM me and say, listen, thanks for telling that story because I had spine surgery too, or, you know, I was confined to, you know, it's amazing. You never know, just like Richard was saying, you never know what's going to, everything works and nothing works. You know, you just never know what's going to, what's the word, Elizabeth? Relate to people. You know, you never know what's going to resonate with people. And listen, I without this community, I know that I wouldn't be in New Orleans. I mean, I know that. I know that I wouldn't get to see my daughter every day. Listen, I'm living my best life. I'm 65 years old. I'm happier in a pig and swat, man. Life is good for me. No complaints. And Richard, you were talking about the founders thing where they drew the map out there. You know, part of why I joined this community was I come from a restaurant equipment business where we build restaurants. And then, of course, you know, there's restaurant tech. Well, what I want to do, or what I'm trying to do with my stories, is I'm trying to get the people that do restaurant tech to talk to the people that build the restaurants, because right now they don't. Even in 2025, fixing to be 2026, they just don't talk to each other. You know, if you start that conversation before it begins, you can tell the stories about how successful restaurants, businesses, it didn't have to be, when I say restaurant, just slash that and put business, how they can get together when they start telling each other stories. Because, you know, we talk about B2C and B2B. It's all about telling your story and how it, just like Eric said, how it fits into the puzzle of the person you're talking to. When you're out prospecting for people, I promise you, if they know your story and if they can understand your story, it's not a cold call. It's a warm lead, because at least then they know a little bit about you. You've built that trust, and you can have that conversation. It doesn't say that they're going to buy from you. It just says you're going to have a conversation, and maybe they'll understand a little bit more about you. And if nothing else, you can always look at the referral from it. I enjoy watching all y'all stuff, and like I said, Richard, you definitely got a take on things that is different than most people here in America. But anyway, I love you, brother.
I think that's one of the things about, if you think about the world now, is you can have a conversation with people in multiple different time zones at once. And I think what's really interesting is not only telling stories, but listening to stories. You know, it was a real pleasure last year to sit down with Elizabeth and James face to face, like Eric said, in person, where you just swap and listen to stories. And I think what's great about the digital world is it allows us to access so much more information. And I think there's something where we've been talking about, you know, our stories and stories we share, but actually some of my favorite stories are the ones that I've heard. And I think there's something about, okay, how do you listen and really listen? It's just a different take on it.
I remember I was about 15 years old and I found my dad's copy of How to Win Friends and Influence People in his home office. Had no idea what I was reading, but I was like, yeah, it sounds good. I want to learn how to do those things. 15, I want friends. I want to influence people. And the number one thing that has stuck out from all of that, legendary book now, is exactly what you're talking about, Richard, is, Carnegie talks in there about the best conversationalists are the ones that do the most listening. Like the conversations you're going to walk away from feeling like you got the most out of are the ones where you listened more than you spoke. The people that are going to gravitate towards you are going to do so because of your ability to listen more so than your ability to speak. And it hits that point home. And every time I hear someone bring up the topic of the importance of listening, it brings me back to that 15-year-old version of myself. And that's something I've tried to carry with me, here many, many years later.
Carl, you're making me chuckle because tomorrow I'm doing some business in the South, and I'm the UK South, not the American South. I wish, because the food's great. And
Sure
I'm going to pop in and go and see my Uncle Rob, who's a huge influence on me. And when I was about 15, he said, Richard, you've got 2 ears, 1 mouth. You do a lot of talking. You need to do twice as much listening.
Love that. Love that. That's such a great, concise way of saying it. Well put.
Yeah, I got told that one too.
Well, Hildy, what you got? I know you got something else. I can see the wheels turning.
No, the only thing I can say is it's very helpful if people sign up at gottosingevents.com. All that's there right now is sign up so that you know when we're in your area. But if people know of restaurants struggling or venues that are cabaret type style that would lend itself to a sing-along, me and my business partner are reaching out and working on those details. And we're going to have a cover charge and then a minimum at the restaurant. So I would love for everybody just signs up, and that way when we're in your town, you'll know, or if you know of a place, please reach out to me directly at Hildy at gottosingevents.com and we can figure out a way to make it work. But I do believe sing-alongs are going to have their time, and hopefully I'm on the beginning of it. So thanks, Dean.
Hildy, when you're ready, definitely reach out for Long Island.
We're already in talks on Long Island. My business partner lives in Westchester, and there's a restaurant that was on one of these calls. It was like, we need you, we need you. But yeah, she's looking for a venue. The venue needs to be a place where you can feel the other people singing. The last place we did was a bar, and everybody was around the bar, so you couldn't get the energy that you need from other people around you singing, because you don't want to hear anybody singing. That's the concept, right? It's the opposite of karaoke. It should be one big loud voice. So if you have a really horrible voice, nobody's going to hear you and nobody's going to care. So that's the concept. And who doesn't want to sing out loud to the whatever theme it is, whether it's women's songs, whether it's Bruce Springsteen, whether it's the Beatles. There's so many different ways that we can do our sing-alongs. And most of the time we have a screen with lyrics too. So it makes it a little bit harder for me as a business owner, but I don't care, because there's something about knowing the words and then you forget them. But if the words are on a screen in front of you, then maybe you'll sing a little louder. Thanks.
Okay, so let's look at the time. We're getting close to the part about tips, homework, and takeaways. So let's do that. Don't forget, we got a show on Friday. I think Ward from Red Onion is going to be presenting on the Rising Tide pitch-off. So, don't forget that, Ward with Red Onion. He'll be here. Let's start with Eric. Eric, we're going to do this on popcorn. What we're going to do is your tip, takeaway, or homework, and then pass it off to somebody else. Thanks.
Tip, I guess, would be share what you think. It's okay. Sometimes it'll stick and sometimes it won't. I keep getting notifications on LinkedIn for a comment that I left on a video about public speaking. It was a public speaking coach. That has nothing to do with anything that I do. And I keep getting notifications about this comment that after a year is now up to 3,300 impressions or something. What? I'm nobody. I was just running my mouth and being funny, and everybody took this as like, that's actually really good advice. So you never know what'll stick. Just keep being you, be real, share stuff, try it, and who knows? Just hold your head high and roll the dice. Popcorn. I don't know. Kyle.
Awesome. Love it. Yeah, homework assignment. I'm assigning it to myself. Do a better job and get ahead of planning in 2026 for a better social strategy for myself, both from a personal brand perspective, from a business brand perspective, from a networking perspective. I am giving myself that homework assignment, and I will throw it out there as an open-ended homework assignment. Open book study, whatever you need to actually get the job done, to anyone else that needs that motivation as well. Now's a great time of the year as we head in. Things slow down a little bit here. We get into the holidays. Good time for some reflection on the past year, and then obviously looking ahead. So that's definitely high on my priority list, and I would encourage all those out there interested in doing so to do the same. Izzy, I'll pass it off to you.
Great. Two things. One, I will always mention whenever we talk storytelling, Matthew Dick's books of Storyworthy, which is about telling personal stories, and Stories Sell, which is about how to tell your business's story. And you can get the audiobooks for these on Audible, or like I use my library app and listen to them for free. Listen to them though, because he's hilarious. Or you can go to YouTube and look up Matthew Dix and watch his moth stories. Hildy's talked to us about the moth before. And anyway, he just has some really amazing stories out there. And he talks about these 3-second moments. We think that stories need to be this big, elaborate thing, but a lot of times it's the smallest moment that in your story that people relate to the most. And so I say that, but I want to just really quickly to Kyle and to anyone else who's trying to think about, how do I approach this for my social media? Like, what's the strategy? First off, what is the lowest barrier of entry for you? For some people, it's writing. They do a better job with pen and paper in their hand, and they can write out their ideas. There are others that do a better job being captured in the wild. Like, it sounds like Maddie Smokes, if he goes live on something, like that is like that's the easiest way for him. But then you can go back and pull pieces from that and create content. If you need to know how to download those things, we'll try to work on that part for you. But this idea of what comes to you most naturally, and then how can you repurpose that for your content? If you're a writer, you're going to do better at voiceovers, where you just get B-roll of you doing things, of you working, of you typing at a computer, and you just read what you wrote over top of those videos. But it's a way for you to access those things. So just thinking through what is the lowest barrier of entry for you to be able to create content, and how can you do that? So anyway, that's my advice, but also check out the books by Matthew Dix, and I will hand things to Maddie Smokes since I invoked his name.
Funny you said it, because it's definitely a takeaway of mine. The barrier of entry, like the live thing, was just more of, okay, I don't have to edit this. I don't have to look at it. I don't know what's going to happen here, but whatever happened, it went out, and I learned people liked it for whatever reason. So it was just kind of, I was overthinking it. So for me, it's definitely this year, my homework is not to overthink, just broadcast it, pivot as I'm doing it, and learn what works and continue doing more of that. So, I infer that on everybody else as well, to kind of just figure it out. It happens, and some days something will work and other days it won't, and you can't wrap your mind around it. But if you think about it too much, you're not going to get anywhere. Thanks, guys. Richard.
Richard.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I just want to shout Dean out on his first presenting. Top effort, Dean. I think there's a bit where, you know, you got such a great voice. You'd be doing this more often. Forget them Californians and their barbecue stuff. Let's have a bit of Dean's voice on there. It's just great to listen to you. And I think there's a really interesting concept when it comes to how people hear stories around the concept of music, words, and dance. And music is your tone of voice, your accent, the way that you talk, the speed. You can slow it up. That's about 30%, 35% of what people hear. The dance, that's your body language, the energy, the kind of, again, often people think of politicians, that's 45, 50%. The actual words are only about 10% of what we actually hear. It's the music, the rhythm, the tone. And I always think of music, words, and dance when I listen to Dean telling stories.
Thanks, Richard. I appreciate that. Well, here's my tip, okay? Do not drink coffee in excess before you get on a live podcast. Okay, that's my tip. And my takeaway is real simple. We're better together, guys. I love this community. I love who you are. I love that we're engaged, and I love that we support each other. We're building a community that's going to go long, far beyond 2025. 2026 is not, listen, it's nothing for a stepper like us. We got it going on, guys. We support each other. We got it. And the thing is, this wouldn't be possible without you. This community does not work without you. That's the thing. We're better together. So, Al, I don't know if this is where we sign off, but the coffee thing, seriously, you know, I got to go. So anyway, thanks. And I'm signing out. If there's anything else to do, Kyle, you'll just have to take care of it for me. Appreciate you.
We're all good. Thank you all. Appreciate you guys joining today.